Welcome back to the Proving Grounds. I'm Andrew. Today we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter in the wake of the George Floyd affair. Now, as everyone already knows, George Floyd died in police custody in Minneapolis. He was handcuffed on his belly, face on the ground. He had a cop's knee in his neck. He had at least one other cop on his back. He was that way for 10 minutes, approximately, until he passed out. And then the cops freaked out, basically, like, oh shit, he's passed out. Threw him in an ambulance, and then, later on he died. Obviously never should have happened. And really, it doesn't matter really what happened before the video. It doesn't matter what his reputation was, or his past history, or what his character was like, any of that. Fact of the matter was, whatever the disturbance was taken care of. He wasn't fighting. Only thing he was doing was weeping for his mother. Okay, he's already cuffed, not fighting. Someone should have sat him up. They should have at least put him in a CPR rescue position to avoid positional asphyxiation or hysterical hyperventilation. And not to mention all the different kinds of other stress that it puts on your body. That didn't happen, and he died directly from what the police did to him. And justifiably so, people were pissed off, right? And went out and decided to protest. It's really unfortunate that the protests started off peacefully, and then criminals slithered their way in there and decided to co-opt this situation to commit acts of violence and vandalism and theft. There's no reasonable person out there that is going to say, well, this man died due to police brutality, so we need to rob a liquor store or Target or whatever, or throw rocks at cops or any of that. That's criminal activity. That's not justice. That's nihilists seeking to burn everything they can down. And that, completely overshadows the whole message of police brutality is wrong. Police are agents of the state, which has the monopoly on the use of force. And they shouldn't, and so as agents of the state and having this ability to initiate force on the state's behalf, to enforce laws, to effect an arrest, to gain compliance if need be, right? They need to be held to a high standard when things like this happen. Swift action needs to happen. These, people need to be held accountable for what they do. And especially in their positions of authority over all the citizens, Now, that being said, one of the other things that happened is activist groups co-opted these events, and they're pushing their own agendas. You have Black Lives Matter, you have Antifa, and Black Lives Matter, you've seen ever since 2016 when they first started, was a lot of, back then, a lot of their signage was anti-capitalist, pro-Marxist slogans and stuff like that. Not so much necessarily arguing for reform and change to prevent any future incidents of police brutality or wrongful deaths as they saw it. Fast forward to 2020, and Black Lives Matter shows up. They actually gained were seen as a real legitimate activist group. They're really supremely positioned to talk about police brutality, maybe need to change, some reforms in police procedures, changes in protocols, argue for better training, better funding for better training. You're not really seeing that. One of the first things they did was make it a black-only issue, ignoring, police brutality just in and of itself and just focusing only on what happens to black people. But then also, again, intertwining it with this, their leftist Marxist agendas, and one of those things is they're just down with the institutions of America. Get rid of them, we'll start fresh. They can only talk about, bad things from the past, things they will say are bad about them now, and ignore the fact that these institutions have one of the great things about America is our institutions have mechanisms of change built into them. We're one of the few countries where you can actually change things. You could push for amendments to the Constitution. Most other countries, you can't do that. The fact that you can go out into the street and protest the government protest the police, speak out against the government, and they don't send people to your house to shoot your whole family, that's really a testament to one of the great things about America, the American ideal, that freedom of speech, self-expression, and we, as a society, we need to highlight those injustices so that things can change. Things do change all the time. They never change as fast as people want. And that's understandable frustration. But again, no reasonable person would suggest that violence is the answer to injustice is not an answer to injustice. Saying, oh, this injustice happened, so let's be violent. No, it's people and any group that says that that's okay or actually organizes violence, well, that's criminal activity. That overshadows the real message. And one of the terrible things as Black Lives Matter out of this, they're the real victor in all of this. They're not so much that they're pushing for change. It's really that they've gained some esteem with major corporations. Twitter's throwing up their hashtags. So it was Nordstrom, Ben & Jerry's, TBS, Warner Brothers, HBO, TikTok, a Chinese company, which, you think the Chinese, TikTok's a Chinese company, which means they're basically beholden to the Chinese government completely. And the Chinese government's got to be loving this kind of unrest. Makes America look weak in the world stage. And you got organizations pushing Marxist communist agenda. And it's really kind of sad because I don't think these companies have done any real research into the organization to see what kind of anti-American and anti-American ideal and anti-capitalist rhetoric that they like to run with. They're just supporting it because it's politically expedient right now. One of the things Black Lives Matter said is defund the police. You talk about destroying American institutions, right? Just defund the police. Police don't need money. Okay, so then what? You don't need protection from anything? There aren't criminals in your area anywhere that might commit crimes, acts of violence, rapes, murders, you name it. No? We don't need cops anymore? We'll just go Wild West on everybody? Everyone for themselves? Lawlessness? How well did that work during the time of the Wild West? Go on, tell me, I'll wait. Not very well, right? No, it didn't. Defunding the police isn't the answer. To me, one of the best things that could be done, you want to get rid of corruption on all levels of government, including police force, get rid of this bullshit war on drugs. Let's just say it didn't work, for starters. And it's caused nothing but corruption at every level of every organization, government. Not only that, but it's created a mindset, within the country, in the police force, this more authoritarian mindset, where we're saying, where the government says they can tell you what you can and cannot put in your body based on your own welfare. You're not smart enough to decide what you put in your own body, so we're going to send the police to enforce these laws, which, by the way, when police enforce the law, what is the government saying? This is worth shooting you over. Because the police have a monopoly on initiation of force, and any interaction with police where force is used can end up in a death. So that's one of the reasons why I'm always very specific with saying that you really need to be careful with what you say should be a law, what you push to be a law, because you're saying that that's something worth killing for. So defunding the police isn't the answer, but if you got rid of the war on drugs, not only could you push for change, right? You could push for these changes. The funding would suddenly be there because you wouldn't need so many of these different resources being everywhere. You could take that cash that's currently being used on resources that aren't necessary and put that into better training for the police. Being able to increase the amount of money police officers make so you can get better candidates, smarter candidates, people less likely to commit these kinds of acts. Because remember, you can't just say hire better people. Okay, if you know, I don't know what all the averages for police everywhere are, but I mean, you're going to pay someone $30,000 a year while you're not going to get the best and brightest. Let's be real. So I'm not saying cops need to make $600,000 a year either. I'm just saying you beef it up a little bit to get better candidates. Spend more money on better training. War on drugs being gone would, I bet you, supply all that money and more. So you could push for better training, different protocols, better training, and use of force continuum and all that. But you also have to remember that there are always going to be some bad actors out there. So the importance is when there is a bad actor, they get caught. We go through the process. It's swift. That cop, bad cop needs to be taken off the street so they're not out there killing people. And I just implore everyone not to just let their emotions rule the day, and support any groups that advocate violence, support groups that are pushing for ultimately destruction of American values or for authoritarian mindsets. Like, do you really want, think about it. You got people pushing to have more government control because you don't trust the agents of the government who are the enforcers of that control. Like, if you don't trust the police at all, why would you want more government control in our lives? And just like, listen to what I've been talking about. All this other stuff is overshadowing the fact that George Floyd died unnecessarily. It was an unjust killing of a civilian, an unarmed civilian, not fighting, at the hands of a couple bad actors. That's all I got for you tonight. Be safe. And remember, click like, share, and subscribe. I have other content coming out. And I hope you watch my next videos. And again, stay safe.